Where are you coming from? What have you learned?
Uh, Lately, I am in in a place where it gets a lot of work, like physical work, and with that, I feel like there's no like real center kind of feeling that because I feel like running around more uh, than like having a solid feeling of like being of like just like being there rather than running helter and skelter.
What have you learned?
Uh, I think what I have seen is that the practice of the meditation needs to be done every day, uh, just to get back to that like that like calm center feeling, and just doing the like having the mindset is not enough.
What does the sutra do?
With the sutra, so I've been reading Avatakam Sutra. It just feels like I'm reading kind of like chanting a mantra kind of thing and visualization.
Move this way a bit, please. This way. Thank you. All
Yeah,
right.
so I don't really know what it's doing. It
Okay.
feels like
Questions.
yeah. So I was also wondering, like what else? Like, is there another way to go through the sutra rather than just reading it in one like in the sitting and just reading through the pages and then doing something else or like doing otherwise?
Are you reading it out loud?
Yeah, I'm reading it out loud. Yeah, like
Okay.
chanting.
What do you mean? Like singing it?
Not singing because it's it's like passages, like paragraphs and verses. So I'm
What?
just like the
Give me a page number.
yeah. Let's see. I can send from like right now I'm on page 153.
Do you mind if I read a little bit?
Yeah.
This is book one of the Avatamsaka Sutra, the Flower Ornament Sutra. Oh, I'm sorry, book two, the appearance of the Buddha. At that time, all the masses in the oceans of worlds in the 10 directions awakened by the Buddha's light all went to Varakana Buddha's place and made offerings. For example, to the east of this flower bank ocean of worlds, there is an ocean of worlds called Array of Lotuses of Pure Light. Among its world systems is a land called Diamond Mind of Pure Jewel Necklaces. The Buddha there was called Infinite King Awakening Space with the Water of Truth. Among the Buddha's vast congregation, there was a great enlightening being named Lotus Banner contemplating the supreme teaching, who came to the Buddha with a group of enlightening beings as numerous as atoms in an ocean of worlds. Each produced 10 kinds of clouds of forms of enlightening beings, filling space and not dissolving. They also manifested 10 kinds of clouds of jewel mountains, 10 kinds of clouds of spheres of sunlight, 10 kinds of clouds of jewel flower ornaments, 10 kinds of clouds of music containing all tones, 10 kinds of clouds of powder incense trees, 10 kinds of clouds of myriad forms of perfume and incense, and 10 clouds 10 kinds of clouds of trees of all kinds of fragrances. Clouds of offerings such as these, as many as atoms in an ocean of worlds, filled all space, not dispersing. Having caused these clouds to appear, the enlightening beings bowed to the Buddha and offered them to him. Then they magically produced in the eastern quarter lion seat of banks of lights of various flowers and sat cross-legged on those seats. South of this flower bank ocean of worlds is an ocean of worlds called Mine of Ornaments of Radiance of Moons made of all jewels. Among its world systems is a land called Array of Boundless Light Spheres. The Buddha there was named Polar Mountain King, with the virtues of light of universal knowledge. Among that Buddha's immense congregation was an enlightened being named Wisdom, universally illuminating the oceans of truth, who came to the Buddha along with a group of enlightening beings as numerous as atoms in an ocean of worlds. Each produced 10 kinds of clouds of jewels from mines of lights of all adornments, filling space without dispersing. They also manifested 10 kinds of clouds of all illuminating regal jewels, raining all kinds of ornaments, 10 kinds of clouds of blazing jewels, intoning the names and epithets of the Buddhas, 10 kinds of clouds of jewels expounding all the Buddha's teachings, 10 kinds of clouds of jewels expounding of jewel trees adorning the scene of enlightenment, 10 kinds of jewel trees adorning the scene of 10 kinds of jewel clouds of precious light projecting myriad phantom Buddhas, 10 kinds of clouds of precious light projecting myriad phantom Buddhas, 10 kinds of clouds of precious light projecting myriad phantom Buddhas, 10 kinds of clouds of jewel clouds displaying the forms of the adornments of all these sites of enlightenment, 10 kinds of jewel clouds of lamps of intense flames expounding the realm of the Buddhas, 10 kinds of jewel clouds of forms of the palaces of infinite lands, and 10 kinds of jewel clouds showing the images of the Buddhas of past, present, and future. Thank you. Okay. In terms of sutra, all I know is reading silently and reading out loud.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You're sliding around on the camera. There you go. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So when I read these pages, it feels like words and like there's visualization that automatically conjures up in the mind,
Mm-hmm.
And like sometimes some words will stand out, so like contemplation or like wisdom or virtue, but that's pretty much it.
Okay. What's the question?
So I don't know if I should be like maybe contemplating more on the sentences that I read, or just continue reading in this manner.
Just continue.
Okay.
If you don't get it, it will get you.
Okay, got it. My next question is about basically this turning the light around practice that we have been doing. So initially I started with like turning the light around, getting like the stuff behind my head, and intuitively focusing on that. Now I don't do that. It's just like the feeling of existence is pretty much the same as that was. Like everything is pretty much the same. So like the way I intuitively feel about myself, like that feeling of I amness is pretty much the same when I feel about space or the laptop, like anything, like pretty much the same feeling.
What's the question?
So when I do that, even though the feeling is impersonal, the separation still exists. That when I focus on the existence of me, even though the feeling is impersonal, it's still contained within this radius of around me. When I focus on it, it feels like there is no boundary. but then it still feels it's within this radius of around me. Is that how?
What's the question?
So is that how it'll be, or do I need to just continue focusing more on it and it will
I'm not
kind
sure I
of break?
understand you. I'm not sure I understand you. Say it again.
So when I am doing the practice, the what I'm aware of feels like the radius around me, like in this small balloon or bubble that I am in.
Mm-hmm.
So that balloon, is it gonna expand automatically, or do I need to do something more to make it expand?
When you give me an or like that, it makes it difficult, but okay. Yes, you need to expand it, but wait a minute. Tell me something. Are there objects in this space?
No, in this space, it feels so I can't. It's like things are.
Describe your
So
practice
this,
from beginning to end. Describe it.
yeah. So basically, it's like I used to do it two ways. One is I take like some object in front of me, I get it behind my head, and then there's this feeling of space behind me with no objects. The same way when I focus on the I amness, the existence of me, again there are no objects, but then at the same time I can also feel the sensations of the body, and all those things are also existing within that within that space.
Are there objects?
It doesn't feel like there are objects, but I'm aware of the objects too.
You're aware of the objects, but there are no objects. Who's
Yeah,
this
but
I
there are
that's
no.
aware of it?
The only thing I have is the experience that this is what I am sensing or what I am aware of.
So
I
what's
mean,
the
by
question?
yeah, by I mean, so there's an experience that is registering that something can is aware of, and that something is what I'm calling I.
So what's the
So that
question?
I mean, you asked me, was there any objects in the field or in the.
And I'm still not clear. Are there or are there not?
So the thing is, in that field,
There seems to be
I don't.
the I am object. I think you're mixing up practices. But go ahead. There seems to be the I am. I am aware.
No, even if I do the other practice of
What
like
other practice?
turning the light around and focusing behind
Okay,
my head.
the object thing, that was just for instruction. That has nothing to do with the practice, right? That was just to
Yeah,
illustrate. That's all.
yeah.
All right.
So
So go
even
ahead.
in that, there is an experience of of being aware of that, and something is aware of
Aware
that,
of what? When you say that, aware of what?
aware of that like kind of intuitive kind of space,
Intuitive kind of space.
because it's not a sensation, it's not a feeling of space,
Okay.
it's something different than that.
All
So
right.
that's what I'm calling. Yeah.
What does intuitive mean?
I don't have a better term to describe it. It's just that it's not a feeling, it's not a sensation.
Okay, fair enough.
Something else.
So tell me, what's the question?
yeah, so the original question was, that how do I make it expand? Because it still feel like it's within
Make
a
what
small radius.
expand?
That space feeling uh, that I am aware of.
The best way I know how to do that is with the flower ornament. Have you visualized the grains of sands in an infinite ocean of worlds?
Yeah, I mean, I do that. I do try to visualize all of those things.
How does that go? There's a lot of space.
There's lots of space. Even that visualization, it gets me the same feeling of that kind of space, but it's again within this radius.
How big is the radius?
So when I zoom in on it, it's like really wide.
Really wide doesn't tell me much. How big is it? You keep talking about it being big or small or something like that.
So when I zoom in on it, it's infinite, but the
infinite.
I mean, I can't see a boundary where it starts and ends when I zoom in on it.
Okay.
But the feeling of it still feels within a small radius. So within a small
radius. So it's infinite, but you feel like it's a small radius.
Yeah.
Who feels like it's a small radius, and what feels like it's a small radius? You can't see that your mind's just superimposing that because you haven't trained your mind enough yet?
I mean, that is true, and that's what I was asking, how to train maybe. Yeah, how to train.
The Sutra is designed to do that.
Okay.
That's exactly what it does.
Okay, so then just continue.
Or you could imagine 10,000 and 100,000 miles of blue sky with no clouds. Start there.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same difference.
Okay.
Your mind is imposing limits because it's afraid. Questions?
Mm-hmm. I mean,
aren't you curious what your mind is afraid of?
I wanted to go there, but I also wanted to ask. So when you said that mind started imposing because it's afraid, so the first moment that I remember, the memory that I have of myself as a kid, as a 4-year-old or something, even at that time, it was still within this small radius only, the experience.
Yeah, but you were 4 years old, right?
But I didn't feel afraid at that time.
Okay. So why do you feel afraid now?
I mean, at this moment, right now, I'm not feeling afraid.
Okay. Good.
I mean, I do not feel the fear or the sensation of fear. But then you said that mind is afraid, and because of it, it's imposing these limits.
Why else would it impose those limits? It wouldn't do it because it's happy or full of joy or full of clarity or power or refulgence.
So that...
I mean, it's a question. Why else would the mind do that? Put a circle around your experience.
Because it might be limited.
What might be limited?
So mind does it because mind is contained around the physical body.
Is it?
I mean, that's how it at least feels in experience.
That's how it feels or how it thinks in experience? Is that a thought or is that the actual experience?
It's not a thought because thought is something I can concretely see in the mind that arises and goes away. It's
No,
the
those are
feeling.
verbal thoughts.
Yeah, those are verbal thoughts. Yeah.
Look out your window. What do you see?
I see a trail of people running.
Does it go away? The tree?
No, it doesn't. If I don't look at it, then it goes away. But as long as I keep looking at it, it's there.
So what does that teach you?
So as long as I keep it in the mind, it exists.
The thought does.
So when I'm looking at this thing outside, is it generating a thought, or I'm just observing and experiencing?
So you say it's an either or?
No, yeah. What is... So if I take out verbal and visual thoughts,
Where is that tree? Really?
I mean, like so the object is outside, but the image is within my brain, where the image is being conjured up.
The object is outside what?
Outside of me, of my mind.
Is it? Where do you draw the boundary of your mind?
The boundary of my mind is the boundary of my mind is this container that I feel around me, the radius.
Okay, where do you put the radius? I mean, I think you're talking about circumference. The circumference. Where do you put the circumference?
Probably in the upper half of my body, from here to here.
Like a luminous egg or something?
I don't see it's a luminous, but
okay,
it's
fine.
like
Okay, so you draw it somewhere about and it's the same order of magnitude as your body.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why do you draw it there?
So I'm not consciously drawing it there. Just that's how it feels. It exists.
I'm not asking whether it's conscious or not. I'm asking why you do it.
I mean, I'm not doing anything actively.
Yes, you are. You're drawing a circumference around your mind.
Not actively.
Okay. That's beside the point. You're drawing a circumference around your mind, are you not?
I don't think so, yeah.
Well, I just asked you where your mind stopped, and you said somewhere in the upper half of your body, a circumference around there.
Yeah.
Why do you draw it there? Or why do you perceive it there? Or why is it there instead of someplace else?
It's like if I take this bottle and I say it's in this space, and then you will ask me why it's here and not somewhere else. It's the same kind of question.
No, the bottle is an object. Your mind is your mind. People can't see what you're doing, so he's holding the bottle like this and saying, this bottle is an object. I guess that's what you're saying. It's not inside your mind. So tell me again, the circumference of your mind. How big is your mind?
Yeah, proportional to the upper half of my body.
Okay. Now, why did you draw the boundary there?
Because that's where it feels it exists.
Because that's what you're used to thinking. Do you know it's there, or do you just kind of intuit it's there?
Yeah, it's just kind of intuit. It's
Okay,
still,
what
I
if your
don't know.
intuition is wrong?
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah.
You think? So if you draw an artificial circumference around your mind, why are you surprised when you have an artificial circumference around the space of this meditation where you say you're turning the light around?
The only thing is, I don't know whether I actually, when did I draw that circumference?
Well, you told me when you were a kid you did. At 4, you'd already drawn it.
No, then it must have happened before that, because that time I just remember it being like that.
Okay, let's say, so who knows when you drew it? Why does that matter?
Because you're talking about that it's not in this circumference.
I'm just asking you why you chose to draw it there. That's all. I'm just asking questions. That's all.
And like I'm saying, I don't know when I drew that or who drew that. It just, that's how the experience
Okay,
is.
the question then is why do you keep drawing it there?
I mean, I'm not actively doing anything to keep drawing it there.
Well, then why don't you why are you actively not moving it outward or inward? I mean, you're trying to understand your mind. And you've drawn
Yeah,
some boundary that you say you had from before you were 4. Okay, fair enough.
yeah.
Why do you keep it there? Why do you keep the boundary in the same spot? Is it luscious and
So,
wonderful in there and cozy and you've got it all to yourself and you don't have to worry about anything except for your amness or something? I don't understand why you draw it there.
okay, so there's another thing that I do, which I don't know from where I read, where it was about do not limit myself to my body. And with that, it's like a practice I do sitting, like walking or sitting, is I just do not think just my body, just try to feel the whole space, and there it's not limited. But then I don't know if it's I'm imagining things because of the practice,
You're
or
imagining
it actually.
everything. You're imagining me here talking to you. You're imagining this world. Where else would it come from? You fall asleep. You have a dream. You dream you're in a small closet, right?
Mhm,
So you're living and maybe suffering, maybe even suffocating in this small closet that you're locked into.
mhm.
Why not just open the door to that closet and walk outside?
In a dream, I I might just do that.
Okay. Have you heard of Plato's cave?
Cave in the.
Plato's cave. Why don't you read it? Read it to folks. Read a short version of
Okay.
it. Could you do it in a paragraph or two?
Is it Allegory of the Cave?
Allegory of the cave.
Like, okay, let me read it out. So in so Plato's Allegory of the Cave is an allegory presented by the Greek philosopher Plato in his work
Student of
Republic
Socrates. Student of Socrates, by the way. Okay, keep going.
to compare the effect of education and the lack of it on our nature. It is written as a dialogue between Plato's brother Glaucon and his mentor Socrates, and is narrated by the latter. And the allegory is presented after the analogy of the sun and the analogy of the divided line. In the allegory, Plato describes people who have spent their lives chained in a cave facing a blank wall.
People who have
They
spent
watch
their lives
shadows.
changed in a cave, staring at a blank wall. Okay? Keep going.
Mhm. They watch shadows projected onto the wall by objects passing in front of a fire behind them, and they give names to these shadows.
So they see
The
shadows on the
shadow,
wall and they give names to them. Go
Mhm.
ahead.
The shadows are the prisoner's reality, but not accurate representations of the real world.
They're the
The
prisoner's
shadows.
reality, right? That's all they know because they live in a
Mhm.
cave. And so
Mhm.
basically, if one person gets up and says, I'm going to go outside,
Mhm.
what does he see compared to what the prisoners see? The prisoners see a very small world, a very
Mhm.
meager world, a very impoverished world. You could hardly call it the
Mhm.
world at all. But the man who undoes his chains and walks outside all of a sudden sees that there's another world altogether out there. Right?
Mhm.
So why do you choose to live in that cave? By drawing the circumference of your mind so tight and small.
So if it's all up to my imagination,
Habit
then
is
I
the
can just.
answer. Habit.
Mhm.
Conditioning.
Mhm.
Belief. False beliefs. Okay. Go ahead.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Should I continue reading
No,
and
that's
making
it.
it?
That's it.
Okay. 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 So if I let go of that and I start feeling the
Let go of
whole
what?
that my mind is within this
Yeah, let go of that
radius,
idea. Yeah.
yeah, let go of that,
All
and
right.
I start just feeling the whole space around me. It does feel bigger instantly.
You think? Just playing with you. Just playing with you. Yeah, it is bigger.
Mhm. Mhm. So it does feel it's not limited or contained anymore,
Yeah,
but
why
it
would you
just
want to
feels.
limit and contain your mind?
Mm,
Why would you want to do that to your mind?
mhm.
Okay, keep going.
Okay, but then it just feels like a imagination. I'm imagining thing, and it's working because
You
of
are imagining
imagining.
it. You imagine it small, you imagine it big. You imagine clouds of emeralds. You imagine grass of sapphire. You imagine the world. You imagine this color. You imagine me.
Mhm.
Look up the word imagine. What does it mean?
Okay, let me look up. So it says imagine means form a mental image or concept of.
Okay. Form a mental image or concept of. You formed a mental image
Yeah.
or a concept of your mind as being the size of, I don't know, a beach ball or something. A big beach ball.
Mhm.
Why did you do that? I mean, why do you continue to do that?
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, I don't need to do that.
Right.
It can be bigger. Yeah.
Now, when you go to turn the light around, maybe you'll experience something a little bit more substantial.
Mhm.
Okay, sir?
Okay.
Question.
Yeah. So let me pull up. So this is from one of your tweets on faith, Zen Faith.
Zen Faith. Okay, good.
Yeah, trust in oneself.
Read it slowly and clearly so people can hear it. I don't have it anywhere here.
Mhm. Yeah, this is from Thomas Cleary. The tweet says, in Zen literature, the expression entry by faith appears occasionally in reference to an initial stage of enlightenment. Faith here does not mean belief in an idea or object. Rather, it has the sense of acquiescence. The Zen
Acquiescence.
master, acquiescence. The Zen master, Rinzai, refers to insufficient faith or trust in oneself as a reason for restless external search and the consequent failure to realize intrinsic enlightenment.
Okay, that sounds pretty clear.
But I still don't understand. So like it says trust in oneself.
Right.
But it doesn't like lead, it doesn't mean anything, like trusting oneself.
What do you mean it doesn't mean anything? If one lacks trust in oneself, one considers oneself a puny little, beach ball sized ball of something, consciousness, or I don't know, awareness or whatever, walking around in this big, bad, scary world.
Mm-hmm.
With faith in oneself, one realizes that is not true, and one can visualize things as more like they actually are, which is much, much, much bigger than that. So one of the reasons that you're not able to visualize the realm of reality is that you lack faith. Define faith again.
Trust in oneself.
Trust in oneself. And you don't know who yourself is. It's two sides of the same coin.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one has to have faith in oneself to take off those shackles and walk outside that cave, Plato's cave, right?
Mm-hmm.
Without enough faith in oneself, you're not going to do anything. You're just going to sit there going around in circles and circles and circles, sucking your thumb. Mm-hmm. You got to have balls in this work. Seriously.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think I understand the part you gotta have balls, but I still don't understand this trust in oneself.
Read it again, slowly.
The Zen master Rinzai refers to insufficient faith or trust in oneself.
Insufficient faith or trust in oneself. Go ahead.
As a reason for restless external search.
As a reason for restless external search.
And the consequent failure to realize intrinsic enlightenment.
And the consequent failure to realize intrinsic enlightenment. That's pretty clear. You're still looking outside.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you look outside, you're not going to find anything. I mean, you may find some beautiful birds and trees and clouds, but that's all you're going to find. You won't find truth that way.
So the oneself
insufficient faith. Okay, what's the next line?
No, I was asking the same line. Insufficient faith or trust in oneself.
Okay, now the next line.
As the reason for restless external search and the consequent failure to realize intrinsic enlightenment.
Okay, now the next line, sorry. Next sentence, I should say.
No, I mean, it ends here in the tweet.
Wasn't there something about acquiescence in there?
That was before this.
All right, read that sentence with the acquiescence.
In Zen literature, the expression entry by faith appears occasionally in reference to an initial stage of enlightenment. Faith here does not mean belief in an idea or object. Rather, it has the sense of acquiescence.
Yeah, bowing down. To bow down and acquiesce to the reality.
So the oneself being referred to here is the reality, not my self or personal self.
Well, it's both. You need faith in yourself in order to even start on this road.
So like in usual terms, faith in oneself usually means that I have faith in my hard work.
Okay, you read book 1 of the Flower Ornament Sutra, the wonderful adornments of leaders of the world. They talked about, what is it, doors to liberation. How many doors to liberation are there?
Yeah, it just seems like anything can be a door of liberation.
A donkey brain can liberate you if you're prepared. An apple falling from a tree can liberate you if you're prepared. Right? But how do you prepare? Well, one of the things you need is some courage and some faith in yourself, right? And enough, I mean, let's use Socrates' analogy again. Somebody at some point said, hey, you know, everybody else is just sitting here looking at these shadows on the wall of this cave. I'm going to take off my chains and I'm going to walk outside. That must have been scary. Because the inside of the cave is like the inside of that closet you dreamt. And if you continue to live in the closet, you're going to live in a closet. If you live in a cave, you live in a cave. Or you can take off your chains, walk outside, and enter into the realm of reality. That's what the purpose of this book is to take you to the realm of reality. That's the title of chapter, what? The last chapter. So what are the questions now?
So I think I just want to expand a little bit more on trusting on oneself.
Okay.
So like essentially, so far in life, I have trusted on the process that, okay, if I do this, if I follow this process, then this thing will lead to the outcome or the thing that I desire.
Correct.
And yeah, like if I just supplement it with hard work and focus, and that's the trust I used to have, which is trusting on the process and on hard work and focus, and that's it.
Did it work? Yes.
It worked. Yeah, it worked.
Okay,
yes.
good.
Yeah.
Now what?
But the trust in oneself that they refer to here, it's something different, but it's not about external.
It's not something
search.
different. It's the same thing. Hard work, application, patience, perseverance, discipline, some energy, some insight, information, right? A little bit of contemplation. You just keep going. What's the difference? Why do you say it's different?
Because here they clearly say it's not about the external search and the
right. Instead of searching externally, for the first time in your life, you're going to search internally. That is the difference.
So here again,
but everything else, what's the difference?
Yeah. So then here again, I'm still trusting the process and the work, but not like myself as such.
There you go.
Okay.
But you still have to trust yourself somewhat.
That I'll follow through on the process.
Yeah.
I trust that.
Like a mountain climber needs faith to climb a mountain. Because without that faith, he'd never start. Or she'd never start, right? Okay, we're gonna have to stop soon. So any last questions?
I mean, I had one more tweet that I wanted to ask about.
Okay, good.
But maybe that will take
No.
longer.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I will just read it out quickly.
No, just read it out to where people can understand. Remember, there's other people listening, so.
Okay, so this is by Thomas Cleary from Yan View, the Blue Cliff Record. It says, just don't see that there are any Buddhas above. Don't see that there are sentient beings below. Don't see that there are mountains, rivers, and earth without. And don't see that there are seeing, hearing, discernment, or knowledge within. Then you will be like one who has died a great death and then returned to life. With long and short, good and evil, fused into one whole. Though you bring them up one by one, you will no longer see them as different. After that, you will be able to function responsively without losing balance.
That's beautiful. But that's advanced. The Blue Cliff record, I quote it usually to let just people know that it's there, in case there's any advanced practitioners out there, or Zenists that really want Zen, that want to achieve Zen, or even those that have accomplished it, that this is a priceless translation of a very interesting time. It's the high point of Chinese civilization, and before it became institutionalized, Buddhism, especially Zen, but Chan Buddhism, it's really Chan, not Zen. Chan being the Chinese word for Zen, but Chan comes from China. And their root text was this one again, the Flower Ornament Sutra. This is what they always, this is Zen, right? This is Chan, the real deal, not the funny costumes and the bells and the chimes and all that stuff, all that silliness. And so it's just to let people know it's there. And then later, who knows, you'll come back and it'll make perfect sense to you.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But now, okay, so before, when you wanted to accomplish something, you said, okay, I'm going to master this body of knowledge about this and this. Let's say you were an engine mechanic. And so you'd go and you'd read books about other people's engines, and you'd read about metals, and you'd read about what can go wrong, and you'd read about repairs, and you'd master a domain. This endeavor is the same, except instead of someone else's engines or cars, you're studying your own mind from first principles. And you're the expert on your mind. And you are the textbook of your mind. And you learn from your own experiences. That's why I'm always interested in what people have learned. Mm-hmm. But don't second guess what you can learn from, because it's much different than what people imagine. That's the whole beauty and wonder of this human life. It's full of discoveries, full of insights and beauty. But you have to approach it in a certain way, with a certain amount of humility and faith in yourself that you're going to accomplish this. Otherwise, you won't. Mm-hmm. So whatever that guy had to do to get his chains off, to get out of that cave, I don't know the details, but we could make up stories about the kind of discipline that it took for him to manage to escape. Mm-hmm. And then when he got outside the cave, it's like the story of the two frogs in the well. Have I told you that? There was a frog. A frog had invited a well frog had invited another frog to visit his home at the bottom of a cave. And the host frog, the one who lived at the bottom of the well, said, "Look at my domain. Look at this beautiful lake. Look at this beautiful place that I call that I'm the owner of." And the guest frog says, "Oh yes, it's very, very nice. It's very nice, yeah." Mm-hmm. He says, "Look at this body of water. Look at this lake here. This is the largest lake in the world." And the other frog goes, "Mm-hmm. It's big." He goes, "No, it's the largest lake in the world. This is the biggest pond in the world." And the other frog says, "Well, I don't know about the largest in the world." And the host frog says, "Get out of here. Bullshit. This is the biggest one." And the other frog says, "Well, okay, but not really." The guy says, "Show me." And the other frog says, "Oh, okay, all right." And so the two frogs, they climb out of the swell, and they hop together towards I guess it would be towards the west. And they reach this bank of sand dunes. And they hop up to the top of the sand dune. Mm-hmm. And the host frog sees the ocean for the first time. Mm-hmm. And his head explodes. you have to be there. And for the first time you see the ocean, your head will explode too, but in a good way. Okay, sir? Anything else before we stop?
No, that's it.
Adios, compadre. Take good care.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
You too.